Okay, I think we're live. Hi everyone, my name is Vin from Nonsense Whisky. Today we've got a very special live with Gustav from the Whisky Couch in sunny South Africa. He's kindly joined me for a 3 whiskey food pairing, and we're going to be covering 3 whiskies. I'll just go through these now before I introduce Gustav, and that is the Glenmorangie Original, and we're going to be having mini pancakes with cream and honey and orange sauce. Ooh. I have a small amount gone now into the glass, the Macallan 12-year double cask, and we're going to be dropping Petit Fours on those. I've got these in little pots just down here. And we're going to be covering the Eagle Rare Bourbon, and that's going to be with French toast, crispy bacon, and maple. So without further ado, shall we bring in Gustav from the Whisky Couch? Here he is. Hi, Gustav. How are you doing?
Hi, Vin. I'm a bit nervous. First time for me for a live stream, but otherwise I'm good. I'm ready to go.
Excellent, excellent. Well, if anyone has not checked out the Whisky Couch just yet, I'll shout him out a few times to go to the channel, but he does YouTube reviews very similar to some of the other guys, but at the end of his reviews, he does food pairings, which are absolutely brilliant, and is the kind of main reason why I wanted to get him on today, to do something a little bit different to my live streams. The food pairings are always brilliant. I've yet to give them a go, so this is my first time trying a few of them. But yeah, absolutely no need to be nervous at all. Your content is absolutely brilliant, and you're doing really well at the moment, aren't you? You've pushed 500 subscribers and onwards.
Yes, yes. I'm quite surprised. We started in November last year, and yeah, what a surprise. It's going really, really well. I'm actually enjoying it very much to do this.
Absolutely, yeah. And as you can tell, I'm sitting in my little studio, but Gustav, ever the professional, has got a nice little backdrop. That's the backdrop for most of your videos, isn't it?
Yes, this is my setting right here. So I'm very familiar with it and comfortable. And yes, so I'm good.
Excellent, excellent. Before we get into the whiskies itself, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions, but it was mainly around, you put out quite a lot of content, don't you? Maybe one a day for the weekdays. So you must have quite a large collection to go through.
Yes, I've got around 300 different whiskies that I've collected over the last sort of 10 years. And in the first 3 months, I think, I did put out a video every day just to get a sort of a bulk amount of videos out there, because I realized that on YouTube, there's no one else really paying a lot of attention to the food pairing aspect. And I realized I can contribute, to the whiskey YouTube community in that regard. But my wife always says I get over enthusiastic. So in the last month or two, I've slowed down a bit, and now I'm doing like 3 or so videos a week. So my pace is sort of down geared to 2nd or 3rd gear, not 6th gear anymore.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's a great strategy to have more content up front and then slow down afterwards, because it's one of the hardest things in the world to get going, I think, on YouTube, when you've only got sort of 6 or 7 videos, nobody's watching them. But
Yeah.
when people see you've got a huge collection of videos, so you think it's going to carry on at about 3?
Yeah, I think I will maintain this sort of pace. It's a very nice casual pace, and it gives me a bit of time to do thorough research. And I must say I'm enjoying this sort of pace. 3-4 videos a week is a good pace. And maybe later on I'll slow down to maybe 2 a week. We'll just see how it goes,
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I went up to 2 videos this year. In fact, in January, one seemed to be going a little bit slow for me, so I thought I can definitely fit 2 in. But I'm finding 2 is probably my peak at the moment. I don't think I could do any more than that unless I gave up a little bit of some of my other hobbies. But I think 2 is a good one, but 3 is absolutely perfect. It's going to be keeping your channel going for a long time and drawing people in, of course, as well.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Shall we check out the first one we've got on today?
I'm ready to go. Glenmorangie. I haven't poured this one. I've poured the others already. So I must just get myself a dram here. Glenmorangie 10-year-old original. All right.
Excellent.
So I'm ready to go with this one.
Brilliant. All 3 of these, actually, I haven't covered on the channel yet. I should actually say as well, I'm a little red-faced today. anyone from the UK will know that today's been an exceptionally hot day for this year. We broke the 20-degree barrier, but this room under this light is very hot. So hopefully I'll be able to cool down a bit. I've got the window open, so if you hear some background noise, but hopefully a bit of whiskey will help. What are
whiskey will definitely help. The pairing will help.
I told everyone at the beginning of the show, but why not let us know what we're pairing this? Because all these food pairings are your ideas, aren't they?
Yes, I've done these already in previous videos on my channel. So this Glenmorangie 10-year-old original matured in ex-bourbon casks. We're going to pair that with sort of mini flapjacks. And this was always a confusion in South Africa. We call them flapjacks. And in the UK and in America, I think they're called pancakes. But it's a mini version. I'm going to put it right up there at the camera with whipped cream and then some of the citrus and honey sauce that I've poured over here just to get it connected with the Glenmorangie. Because of the Glenmorangie's wonderful dessert-like qualities, you know, the vanilla, the sweetness, the fruitiness, this kind of dessert-like pairing works quite well.
Excellent, excellent. I've also got my little ramekin here. My whipped cream doesn't look too healthy, but we'll give it a go. But yeah, so your standard kind of process is to do a tasting on the whiskey first and do the pairing a little bit later.
Yes, I'll first go through the whiskey.
Well, I'm very...
I'm getting some real bourbon qualities this evening on this Glenmorangie from the bourbon casks.
Yeah, I absolutely love this whiskey. I'm surprised I haven't covered it yet, but I do have the bottle to go onto a review soon. I'm actually running out, so I better get onto it pretty quickly. But yeah, it's just an absolute classic ex-bourbon Scotch.
Wonderful citrus and sort of ripe peaches and vanilla on the nose.
Oh, that vanilla, I absolutely love it. It's absolutely brilliant.
And then the moment you taste it, you get that creamy vanilla on the palate as well, with the fruitiness and the slight spiciness.
Definitely, yeah. I think for me, I get a bit of honey as well. A touch of caramel, but I'm guilty of saying caramel quite a lot. Maybe I'm getting caramel when I think I'm getting other things and I don't quite know the word for it yet.
So you also a caramel fan?
Yeah, I'm a big caramel fan. I think, as we all know, all the people in the comments will know, the only thing I'm not a fan of is sulfur.
Oh, that I've picked up, yes. Strangely enough, sulfur doesn't bother me that much.
Lucky you.
But I've picked up on your videos that you don't like the sulfur in the sherry cask whiskies.
Yeah, pretty much. We're not really sure why yet. A lot of us have been trying to get together and figure out what's going on with the sulfur, but because some people just don't smell it at all. It's unfortunate. Maybe I should be tested.
So I'm gonna go with this now. I can't wait anymore. I've already done a pairing event this evening, and I had to watch everybody enjoy their whiskies and pairings. So now finally it's my turn. So here it goes. What do you call this in the UK? Pancakes?
Yeah. I mean, they're the traditional pancakes that we make in the UK are kind of wide and really thin, like wafer thin. But these are sort of more like American pancakes.
That's like a crepe.
Yeah. A crepe. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Anyway, we call this here the thicker version. We call this here a flapjack, and then the lovely orange and honey sauce.
That's incredible. I love it. I've just realised as well that with this microphone down by my face, a lot of people are going to be getting some chewing noises. So sorry about that if you do get some. I promise I'll buy a good microphone eventually.
You know what I love about pairing is the moment that you experience the pairing snack and you nose the whiskey, then already the aromas and the flavors of the pairing is already connecting. And you can almost not wait to try the whiskey to see how the flavors are going to either connect or hopefully not clash. Yeah,
definitely. You want it to enhance it. And with food pairings, I never really got into food pairings until I went to a Elements of Isla tasting, and that it was just chocolate they had on the table, and we had a couple, and I wasn't too bothered about it. Then they brought out, I can't remember which one it was now. I think it was the Port Ascig 100, and they gave us salted caramel squares of chocolate, and it was just amazing. It just lit up.
Mm. If I'm doing this now, and I get those pancakes and the cream and the honey and citrus, it brings out the fruitiness in the whiskey for me. At this moment, as I'm experiencing it right now, I get more fruit, more sort of peaches, and I need to be careful if you put too much of the honey sauce, or you don't put enough of the orange juice in the honey sauce just to thin it a little bit. It is overly sweet, and then it won't connect. So there needs to be a nice balance in terms of the sweetness in the pairing. Otherwise, it'll just sort of overwhelm the whiskey. But the balance that I've got here now, if I do the whiskey, I get much more. It's bringing out the fruitiness for me.
Absolutely. So how do you go about concocting your pairings? Do you take a guess and then give it a go, or are they kind of finely tuned things that you put together?
What I normally do is I do a lot of research on the particular whiskey, and then I do my own tasting, and I compile tasting notes. And then I would look at some of the more dominant elements in the flavor profile, and also the general sort of characteristic of the whiskey. Like, this is like a very dessert-like whiskey for me. And then based on that, I decide on a food pairing. But there needs to be a similar element usually in the food pairing that will connect with one of the elements in the flavor profile of the whiskey. And the rest of it should just not clash. And then I'm a go. But I must say, often I have to experiment trying one or two or three things until I find something that works really well.
Yeah, excellent. I think that's a really good idea. It's something I haven't really experimented with a lot. Just the kind of standard things. So if you're eating some snacks or whatever and you're having some whiskey, then I suppose you're kind of food pairing, aren't you? But I haven't really tried my hardest to make a connection between food and whiskey before.
Yes. Something that works very well, but I found that most people do that, is chocolate and ice cream. With that, you can't go very wrong. It's quite easy to pair any kind of chocolate with most sort of whiskeys, but if you want to fine tune it and you can find exactly the right kind of chocolate that goes with the right kind of whiskey, then it's really magnificent. It's like I said in one of my recent videos, it's like almost like an orchestra playing sort of in harmony. And as you taste it and experience it, you can feel that nothing is clashing. Everything is just like hand in glove. It just goes like this. Awesome.
So before we get into the next one, just wanted to ask you a couple of other questions. I want to it's all about introducing you to the audience I have, and hopefully a few of them will go over and check some of your videos out. So you said before you started collecting sort of 10 years ago. Is that when you started getting into whiskey, or has it been a kind of long-standing thing?
The one thing that I appreciate about my wife is that she remembers sort of dates. It's just amazing. I said to her this afternoon, we're going to do this live stream. And I started with my whiskey 10 years ago, and then she just goes immediately, 14 years ago. I don't know how women do that. They just remember it like detail. So 14 years ago, our son went to the UK to work there, and on his first visit back to South Africa, he brought me an 18-year-old Glenfiddich. And that is where my journey and his journey, me and Jock, we sort of do it together. He's since married an Irish girl, Shona. They live in Northern Ireland now. So we're going to visit one of these days. But since 14 years ago, we sort of had this hobby. And we collected whiskey and we exchanged sort of experiences. And yeah, it's 14 years later. So I've got a very nice collection built up over a very long time. And it's quite nice to share this now with everybody out there who wants to listen. So thank you to you, my friend Slange, that I can do this with you. and introducing me to live stream. So Vin, this is to you.
Excellent. That's the Macallan 12 you got there, so I'll pick that up as well.
Yes, Macallan 12.
Well, it took me probably, well, again, with the dates, I'm sure some of the viewers will know, it took me something like a year or maybe even a year and a half to start doing live streams properly. That was mostly because my internet was terrible where I am. But yeah, it's an interesting dynamic because you sometimes, like what we're doing now, is having a nice conversation and you kind of forget that people are tuning in and watching, even though I've got all these words sort of coming down the screen next to me. And I will get to a few of your questions soon. So if you've got questions for me or Gustav, please do comment, and I'll do some shout outs and stuff in a little bit. But now that we've got the Macallan in our hands, this is the Macallan 12 double cask. One thing about the Macallans, I get quite a lot of sulfur again. We'll talk about sulfur a little bit again, but they're about 50-50 with me. Luckily, this isn't one of the ones I get a lot of sulfur on.
Oh, really? I just wanted to ask you. So this one is more or less sulfur free for your senses.
Yeah, I mean, there's a touch of it in the background, but it's not disgusting to me. Like, that's the trouble I have with sulfur, is that when I smell it, it gives me a bad sensation. But with this one, it's more kind of brown sugars, oak, things like that, and I don't get any of that terrible sulfury smell that I really don't like.
This has got a wonderful nose for me, like creamy butterscotch, thick, rich sherry. And have a look at the difference in color. This here is the Glenmorangie and the Macallan. So quite a difference in the color between the ex-bourbon and the ex-sherry cask.
Wow.
Even though this is only sort of seasoned sherry casks, but still different color.
Yeah, I can see that quite a lot, especially with this light here. I'm sure that now that it's on screen, you can see that. That's the bourbon. That's the sherry.
I agree with your brown sugar. It's like almost caramelized brown sugar.
Yeah, and I definitely get that butterscotch you were talking about before. Maybe some. So I always get. It's funny this. I always get like orchards, like apples, things like that on kind of Speyside whiskies.
On the palate, I'm getting like lots of dried fruit and interesting now, caramelized nuts. But the caramel is playing a big role here for me.
One of the funny things I get on the Macallan 12, there's only one other whiskey that I always get this on, and it's raisins. And I always get that on Dalmore 12 year especially.
Oh, the Dalmore. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's one of the things I've reviewed it like a year and a half ago, one of my first reviews. And one of the things I said, a lot of people don't like Dalmore because of its colouring, it's 40%, that sort of thing. But for me, it reminds me of sitting on a step when I was a child, eating these small boxes of raisins. These we call them sun-made raisins, red boxes, and they have little raisins in them. And it just takes me back to that. And that's the only reason I like the Dalmore 12. That's
a good memory. That's a very good memory. I'm getting on the finish here, I'm getting some bitter dark chocolate. Some strong dark chocolate on the finish.
Yeah, definitely.
But I must say, this has got a longer finish for me than the Glenmorangie.
Yeah, I mean, the Glenmorangie is kind of a cheap sipper for me. It's got everything I want from a daily sipper. This one in the UK, I'm not sure what you get, but the Macallan 12 is about £45-50 in the UK, which is quite expensive. It's quite expensive.
50 pounds translates to about 800 rand. I think I paid for this one, it's around 600. So it's the Glenmorangie is around 400 rand, which translates to about 28 sort of pounds.
Yeah,
400 rand. Yeah,
I think that's about right. So what are we pairing this one with?
So what works very well with this, because of especially the finish, the chocolatey finish, is the chocolate Petit Fours. So I've cut mine in half. That's what it looks like. Let me just put it there on camera. But I've cut mine in half just so that I can handle it. So it's got like a chocolate cake in the middle, and then a chocolate covering, like the Petit Fours cakes that one get. There we go. And this works wonderful. So I'm going to try this straight away.
I hope that I've cheated a little bit. I couldn't find something similar to that, so I bought little chocolate brownies. So they haven't got the stuff around the outside, but I think it will do the same thing.
Very good choice. Yeah, wonderful. Now, if you nose it already, then you should feel that this is going to work. Unless you've got a whiskey with a very soft, subtle nose, then you won't get that message straight away.
Yeah, that's bringing all out chocolatiness for me, obviously, but...
Oh. The moment I do the pairing, I sort of get Christmas pudding feeling in my mouth. You know, it reminds me of Christmas pudding. When the whiskey and the chocolate Petit Fours comes together, I get that Christmas pudding with sherry sauce. Yes, that's it.
Yeah, I'm all over that. That's an excellent pairing. That is that the sherry just mixes really well with the chocolate. This produces more flavors.
I would give this pairing like a 4.5 out of 5, and I would give the Glenmorangie with the pancakes, I would give that like around a 4.
Okay, so the first one 4.5 out of 5, did you say? And the second one,
the first one, the Glenmorangie, 4 out of 5, but the second one, the Macallan with the Petit Fours, that for me is a 4.5 out of 5. That's a very good pairing.
Okay, excellent. There you go. Well, people watching, if you're interested in doing any of these pairings, then just a bit of Macallan 12 and some chocolate will do you wonders.
Some of the other options that one can consider with something like a Macallan, or most of the sherry cask matured whiskies like Glendronach or Tomdu, or even the sherry cask finished whiskies like the Glenfarclas and Dalmore that you've just mentioned, is any sort of dark chocolate dessert. Or you were talking about raisins just now. We get raisins that's chocolate covered, or a chocolate enrobed raisins. That can work very well as a pairing. Or I've found that nutty shortbread goes quite well with sherry whiskies as well. And if you want to go all out, then a beautiful medium roasted beef fillet with chocolate sauce. Man, that is like serious good pairing for a sherry cask whiskey.
God, even though I'm drinking the whiskey and tasting these with you, when you said about the beef, then that's just it's made me hungry all over again.
You're gonna try that, are you?
Definitely, yeah. I'm a big fan of any kind of beef anyway, but yeah, drinking whiskey while drinking by eating beef, that's got to be the trifecta, right?
Yes, one would usually not think of a beef fillet medallion with chocolate sauce, but if you do that, like a nice, rich, dark chocolate sauce, it is wonderful. I'm just nosing this Macallan again, and the dark sherry that I'm getting now on the nose, just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. Like I say, the Macallan can be a bit hit and miss for me, and they're one of those brands that's premium, expensive. I tend to give them a bit of a miss, a bit of a bad rep, but they do make good stuff. When I like when I like it, I love it, and when I don't like it, I don't like it at all. Which is, we call that a bit Marmite in the UK.
I think they did well with this particular one, the 12 double cask. Let me just put the bottle in front of the camera for people to see. I think they did very well with this particular one, the 12-year-old double cask. The double cask is for it's American oak and European oak casks, both seasoned with sherry. So you've got two different kinds of oak casks, but seasoned with sherry, bringing two different kind of influences to the whiskey.
Excellent. What percentage do you get from the Macallan 12-year?
The Macallan here is 43%.
Oof, I thought I saw that when you held that up to the camera.
Yes.
We only get 40%. This is a pretty standard thing.
Yeah, this is very interesting in South Africa, way back. Pardon me. In the history, there was some kind of law that if you want to import whiskey, it's got to be 43% or higher. So that is all the sort of standard bottlings. That is usually 40% in the UK. They've got to do a special bottling run for South Africa to get it to both 750 ml volume and then the 43%. That's why we always get our bottling sort of 4 months later than the UK. So we've got the advantage of higher ABV, but the disadvantage, we've got to wait for the stuff to arrive here.
Okay. So is the Glenmorangie also?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
So
it
jealous.
Can't be according to law. It cannot be. You can see there 43%.
Wow, that's actually really interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Because I tried my first South African whiskey fairly recently. Actually, it was a grain Baines. I think it was Baines. Am I saying that?
It just won the sort of world award for the best World Whiskies Award for the best single grain in the world.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that because grain is something I'm just getting into. I've got a few bottles of grain now, but here it's kind of got a bit of a bad rep because there's some really like young grains that are knocking around. This is Hague Club. I don't know if you get that down there as well.
Yes,
Hague Club's a thing, and it's not very good. It's a bit expensive. It's okay. The big one's okay. The little one, the Clubman, is not very good at all. But no, but aged grain is fabulous. I'm a big fan of anything 20 years plus in grain. It's real nice.
I've got the Baines here. I think it's very good. This is the South African Baines single grain whiskey. Very, very good, actually. It doesn't have an age statement, but still, I'm quite impressed with it.
Okay, I'm going to go down through the comments for a bit, if you don't mind, because we've smashed through 2 of our whiskies in half an hour. So I'm going to go and shout out a few comments. If Roy and Roy Vakvite and Whiskey Wednesday, they're both moderating for me today. So if you can at me with anything specific that I might have missed, but I'll go down and have a look through the comments quickly. In fact, we've got quite a few people. 20 people are watching now, which is really good.
That's very good. Wonderful.
James Hope is the first question I can see. Have you got the Deep Tasting Chocolate and Whiskey book? Has anyone else read it? I haven't got it, but I'm very open to whiskey books. How about you, Gustav? Have you heard of that?
I haven't got that one, no, but it sounds very interesting. What is the title again?
He's saying it's called Deep Tasting Chocolate and Whiskey.
I must get hold of that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down right now as well, because I am a big fan of whiskey books. Because as I can tell especially from your channel, you say if you've been looking at whiskey for about 14 years, you must be just like the rest of us on YouTube. We're more than fans. We're kind of nerds about whiskey. We like to know stuff. Okay, I'm just going to scroll down a little more. People are asking about what we're drinking. So far, just to recap, we've covered the Glenmorangie original 10 years and paired that with mini pancakes with whipped cream and honey and orange sauce, which was really good. And then next we had the Macallan 12-year-old double cask. I only had a sample from the dram team, but that was paired with Petit Fours, which I had some chocolate brownies. And coming up in just a moment, we're going to be covering the Eagle Rare Bourbon 10 years. I'll be interested to see what ABV you get on that, but we're going to be covering that with some French toast, crispy bacon, and you can see it dripping off there. Lovely is the bacon and maple syrup, which sounds awesome. What else have we got in the comments? There's loads of people now. Welsh Toro's in, James Coates is in, Her Sky Marshall. He says that we're both of us are his favourite YouTubers, which is very flattering indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What's his name?
Her Sky Marshall.
Thank you. How's it going, Marcel?
Yeah, hopefully he's going to come across to you. But top whiskies are in. I'll probably skip loads of you. Very sorry if I'm missing people, but it's difficult to keep up with the comments when you're chatting to people. Agravite saying, he did say earlier about the Glenmorangie, and he said, stick your nose back in the Glenmo and tell me you don't get pineapple cubes.
I've got my tasting notes for the Glenmorangie original right here, and I actually have pineapple on my tasting notes.
I do get a touch of pineapple, and I know that I get it because I don't really like pineapple. So when I smell it, I'm like, yeah. I mean, I do get this. It's not a lot of it. It's not a lot of it. It's just a touch, I think.
Pineapples, and then what I get most is peaches, like overripe peaches.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of getting peaches on whiskey. I get a lot of peach on Highland Park whiskies. I don't know if you get that at all, but for me, it's kind of an inherent background flavour of Highland Park. There's this peach knocking around in there. I do have one question for you from Whiskey Wednesday, and he says, what's the whiskey scene like in South Africa? Is it a developing market?
Yes, it's developing quite a bit. A couple of years ago, they started with the Whiskey Live Festival in Johannesburg. And in the last 3 years, they've expanded that to a Cape Town Whiskey Live, a Pretoria Whiskey Live, and a Johannesburg Whiskey Live. So we have in South Africa, we've got 3 Whiskey Live festivals every year now. So it is definitely developing, but I would enjoy it if it would develop faster. It seems like some of the people are still sticking with the beer and the brandy. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think if you enjoy something very much, you so much want the rest of the world to enjoy it with you. So no, it's definitely developing, and that is something that I enjoy quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. When I sort of joined the whiskey world, I think I thought it was only about 5 years, but just like you said, I checked my Facebook comes up with that kind of message to say this was last year. But it was like 6, 7, maybe 8 years ago. I started really deciding I liked it. Oh God, it must be my 25th birthday. Yeah, when I decided I finally want to get into whiskey, and I went from having just what I can get hold in the supermarket, you know, the kind of Glenfiddich 12-year, a couple of the no A statements, and then I started watching things on YouTube, and I was like, wow, I had no idea there was any more than like 10 distilleries out there, and there's hundreds of the bloody things, and now I can't keep up with it because I've got so much stuff everywhere.
And it's really expanding. The whole whiskey industry is expanding at a rapid rate. The rate at which the expressions and the bottlings and the distilleries are going up. I read somewhere that there's like almost like 10 distilleries in the planning phase only for Ireland. Can you imagine all of those up and running in a couple of years from now, putting out 2 or 3 or 4 expressions? The range that one can choose from in the whiskey industry now is enormous. What a privilege to be in such a position.
Yeah, definitely. I always thought about Irish whiskey. That was the really surprising thing is how much Irish whiskey there is around. But there's only something like 4 or 5 distilleries producing all of that right now. But one of them is just so massive. It puts out it's the Jameson's one where they produce Jameson's. It's just huge, and it puts out so much liquid that they can keep up with that demand.
And they're putting out quite a number of brands as well. But I think the Irish scene is going to change quite a bit in the next sort of 10 years from now. It'll be a whole different story.
Yeah, absolutely. I happen to agree. I think the whole thing will be different. What I'm hoping is that people will break through this anti-no age statement kind of stance that a lot of people have right now, because there are a lot of terrible no age statements out there, sure, but there are a lot of really good ones. And it's difficult to know which ones are going to be good and which ones are going to be bad, which is kind of something that I hope that I can give back. Is, you know, if I can get hold of these no age statements, I can try them and I can tell you if they're good or not then. And then you can know if you can leave them alone or not.
I must agree with you. There are a couple of no age statements that's really surprisingly good, but yeah, that's a human thing. Once you're used to something and you take it away, there's always the resistance to change. You know, you want to go back to what you're used to. You want to see that sort of number, 12 or 14 or something. It's something that you can use to measure by. But I think there's also a kind of a stigma because of the fact that some of the distilleries ended up with not enough, what is the English word now? Not enough juice, basically. And one sort of got the impression that they're putting stuff out there that is not really on standard just to feed the market. So I think once we sort of just get past that, then things will be better.
Absolutely. I do have one more question from James Hope, and he's asking, how many malt distilleries are there in South Africa now?
We've got the one big one, the Sedgwick Distillery, where they do this Baines one, and they also do the 3 ships. So they do single grain, and they also do malt whiskies there. And then we've got the smaller one in Pretoria, actually, right here. That guy does his own single malt whiskey, but it's on a very small scale. It's almost like a micro distillery kind of thing. One very small one in the north of South Africa. And then we've got a couple of wineries that are now moving into the whiskey scene. Which is very interesting. Some of them bought some stock from Scotland and they bottling. So things are sort of developing in that direction that a couple of years from now, we will probably have 2 or 3 extra distilleries. I'm hoping 10 years from now. So it's also something that is developing.
Yeah, definitely. I happen to agree because at the moment we've, for English whiskey, I know the rest of the world tends to think of us as kind of Britain all together, but Scotland and England are very different places, and English whiskey is really developing market as well. We've got one distillery that's been producing for, I don't know, they put a 10-year-old out a couple of years ago, so maybe just over 10 years. Then after that, we're only just getting a few that are unveiling now. We had the Cotswolds last year. We've got the I'm trying to remember them all now. There's only a handful. So in sort of 20 years' time, that's going to be a really good market, I hope. But it's still a very fledgling market, and it's really difficult to compete with Scotch because it's such a name. In fact, I heard someone say, no name dropping at all, but I heard someone say on YouTube the other day, this Japanese whiskey is my favorite Scotch from Japan. But it kind of hit home. It wasn't a mistake. It's just such an institution that for some people, Scotch is whiskey. It's not some whiskey is Scotch. And I think that's brilliant. I think Scotch has done its job really well there by making people think that the word Scotch is whiskey.
It is difficult for the rest of the world to compete with. What does Scotland have? Probably about 115 distilleries. So, I mean, that is like massive. How do you get to that? So they've been very well established. How's Cotswold? I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, I do like to drop the Cotswolds in it whenever I can because they're my very local distillery now. But this is they're kind of, it's only 3 years old. But let me just show you this. People have seen my review of it, but I'll show you this. It's a 3-year-old malt, but that is all natural colour.
That looks wonderful.
Yeah, they use premium ex-red wine barrels in this, but they don't scrimp on it at all. They shaved, toasted, and recharred them. There's no kind of third fill nonsense in there or anything like that. But they've gone out. It's an expensive bottle. For 3 years, it was like £45. But for me, I invest in my kind of local businesses and things, so I had to get a bottle, and it just happens to be amazing as well. Hopefully, it'll start making its way around the world. I know they've done America, but I don't think they've done anything else yet. They haven't got the bottles to send around.
Okay, so they're also like a micro. They're not like mass millions of bottles putting out. No. I think they're maybe filling 20 casks a week or something like that. It's only really small. It's an old converted barn, so they don't have loads of spaces, but they're only like double distilling and things like that. But their gin they're putting out as well. I used to have a bottle knocking around here, but their gin is amazing as well. Definitely worth checking out if people can get hold of it. But I wouldn't recommend you pay the shipping charges to South Africa, that's for sure, because that'll be another double bottle basically. Yeah, no, that's not worth it. But the wine casks is intriguing. That's of course my son's language. Whiskey matured in wine casks. So yeah, that is something that they did right. I think they'll do well with that because it's in a certain sense unique. It's not that many distilleries that do wine cask, red wine cask whiskies.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're trying to do. Is do some interesting things rather than trying to directly compete with Scotch. They're trying to kind of break the mold a little bit and try some things that they're allowed to do because Scotch is so highly regulated. They have to do things exactly the way the SWA tell them to do it, and that's fine. Traditional is a massive part of whiskey, but in terms of innovation, it holds them back a little bit. So English whiskey may as well just throw the dice and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Just picking up another couple of comments for you. Aquavite says he's from Glasgow, and he says there's 140, give or take, in Scotland. I actually have this. I'm not going to have to get back on the wall now. Most people don't get to see this because it's a bad angle, but my wife bought me this a few years ago. It's a map of Scotland, and it's got all of the distilleries written on it at time of print. Anyway, I think there might be a few new ones now. But it's absolutely incredible. I love looking at that. I'm going to put that back up later so that I'm not stretching over the camera.
I just want to say hi, Roy. I'm glad you're watching. And 140, I thought it was around 120. So that is quite massive. 140 distilleries in Scotland.
Yeah, it's huge. And I've been to depressingly few of them. I need to plan a trip up there, but as I tried to explain to, I think Trenny and C, or maybe somebody else, they're hard to get to by kind of default because they were, most of them anyway, the older ones, the 300-400 ones, they were built out of the way because they were all illegal operations. So by default, they're hard to get to. So
yeah, but you're right. Our son Jacques, he took me to Scotland 2 years ago, and we started with Arran and Campbelltown and Isla, worked our way up to the Highlands, and I think we did about 22 distilleries. So Aquavite Roy, if there's 140, then I have got another 118 to go. I can do a few trips again.
Well, luckily you can do you can spend a week in Speyside and knock off a vast majority of those distilleries. All right, I think we've not been drinking for long enough, so shall we get the last one? Now that we've been talking about Scotch for a long time, let's head to America.
Yes, I'm ready. You asked about the ABV on this one.
Yeah, I imagine it's the same because ours is 45%.
Yeah, you see, the moment it's above 43, then they don't have to do a special bottling. So when it's 45, then they can just do a 45 for us as well. So the moment it's above 43, it'll be the same than you've got.
I'm also interested to know how much it costs you to get a bottle of that over there, because this is obviously important for both of us.
This one is around, if I remember correctly, it's around 700 Rand. So that would translate to 45 pounds, more or less.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. It's not a cheap bottle over here either. It's probably about that. Yeah. But we do get it on deal quite regularly. I think I picked my bottle up for about 30.
Yeah, you see, that's a good price. Buffalo Trace is better priced, much better, almost half the Eagle Rare price.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Buffalo Trace, actually. It was the first bourbon I tried on my channel and was one of only the first bottles I'd ever tried. I just picked it up on a random. Wasn't expecting to like it at all and actually love it. So I'm a huge fan of bourbon now, and I don't get to cover enough of it because we don't get that much of it over here. We get plenty, you know. I'm not complaining compared to other countries, but we could get more. I wish we would get more.
It's the same here. We if I look at some of the other channels and I see the amount of bourbons that they review, it is just astonishing, and we just get about a fraction of that here in South Africa. I must say, you picked a very good bourbon to start your channel with. Buffalo Trace is for me personally a very easy drinking, very enjoyable, almost like an everyday go-to bourbon for me. I started with the more stronger ones. But once I got to the Buffalo Trace, I really fell in love with it. It's a very good, very nice bourbon.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on UK shelves, we get quite a lot, but we get the Buffalo Trace standard comes in at sort of £18 to £20, which is a bargain when you consider that Jim Beam White Label, which I'm not a fan of at all, is only maybe £2 or £3 cheaper than that. So for the small amount extra, you get something that's vastly better.
Yes, yeah, that's a no-brainer. You go for the Buffalo Trace straight away. Our price is around 400 Rand, so that would be 30 pounds, more or less.
Welsh Toro's been commenting for a while, but I've missed it. He's just said that the Buffalo Trace is a crap 40% in the UK. The 46% version is much better. I think you probably must get it at the 43 or something then.
I think we definitely have. What do we get? Fortunately, I've got it right here. Buffalo Trace, 45.
Oh, it's like a dagger to my heart. Why can't we get these things? We need to change the rules over here to make sure that. I've always said that with them. I said it on a video recently as well. That Scotch needs to change its rules about colouring, because you get such amazing things from bourbon. But even I've tried some whiskies that are basically clear, and they're about 8 years old, and they're clear, but they're good. And people need to get over the colour of the bottle and just start enjoying it. So if we could have no added colour, I would be very happy boy indeed.
I agree. This nose on this Eagle Rare, isn't it fantastic? Every time I have Eagle Rare, I get marshmallows. Can you believe it? I
can. It's the interesting thing about bourbon I always find as well. I should show you my bottle again. With bourbons, I don't know if you get this as well, but when I open the bottle, I never like them. Almost immediately, I'm like, it's okay. Always, when it gets to about here, it's had a chance to aerate a little bit, sit in the bottle for a bit. I fall in love with bourbon always, half a bottle down, and then I've only got half a bottle left. What's up with that?
You've got a problem. I'll take the first half. You can ship that to me.
Maybe that's what I should do. Maybe I should get the bottle and decant it so that I've got 2 half bottles, and then I can fall in love with it right from the start.
You've got a strategy that right there. I'm getting marshmallows. I'm getting marshmallows and melon. Ooh, this is wonderful.
It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, I love all the kind of sweetness. It's kind of sugary for me. It's not so much vanilla, but it is in there, obviously, with the American oak. But it's not as massive as some of the other ones that we've tried before. Oh, yeah, wow!
I'm not getting vanilla on this one. On the nose.
I've just had my first super chat of the live stream come through from Scotch for Dummies. If anyone hasn't heard of their channel, by the way, they're absolutely brilliant. It's 4 guys just standing around talking about whiskey. What more could you want? And they've said, "Cheers, Vin. Great show as always." Thanks very much, guys, for that. I appreciate it no end, because you don't have to do these things, and I love it. Sorry, Gustav, what were you saying? I cut you off there.
Slange to Scotch for Dummies.
Indeed.
Now, I was just saying, ripe melon and marshmallows on the nose, but I'm not getting the vanilla here. I'm getting more brown sugar kind of aromas.
That kind of brown sugar, Demerara sugar, that sort of thing.
Yes. And then on the palate, the caramel and the cinnamon.
Yeah, I always find that with a lot of good bourbons is the kind of spice mix that you get on the finish. Sometimes it's difficult to pull between whether it's kind of aniseed or cinnamon or cloves or something like that. But this is definitely cinnamon forward. Cinnamon forward,
and if for me personally, a bit of pepper. Cinnamon and pepper. That's why the pairing works so well. I've even dusted my pairing with a bit of cinnamon. The maple syrup has already gone right into it. So I've got the French toast here. I just got it in a small little piece so that I can handle it. The rest I ate earlier this evening. But the French toast, and I also have a bit of white cheese underneath the bacon and the cinnamon. Oh boy.
Well, while you're enjoying that, I'll have to show everyone my attempt at French toast. Now, I've never made French toast before, so I made it today for the first time, and I think I might have overdone it just a touch. But as we said in the pre-show, I think that might even add to the flavours of the charred bourbon. Might be in my favour. We'll see.
I was saying to Vin, you take it very literally. Charred barrels, charred French toast.
Well, unfortunately, I stank my house out when I made it, and my wife wasn't very happy with me either. But these things happen. I probably won't make French toast again, but I'm going to try it anyway and see where we go.
All right, I'm going French toast. Here we go.
Already, I haven't even drunk the whiskey again yet, but that's amazing. That's the first time I've eaten French toast right there, live on YouTube.
You must nose it while you chew it. It's amazing, the aromas and the flavors in your mouth, and then yep. You see, now it's at this point where I wish I didn't have such a small piece. I should have had the whole thing with me now. This is wonderful.
Oh,
the
definitely.
The slight saltiness of the bacon with the cereal sweetness of the bourbon is a very nice contrast. It's not clashing. It's just sort of balancing.
Definitely. I picked streaky bacon with mine. Boy, it's awful. I'm talking with my mouth full. But that's absolutely incredible. Now, you gave the others a 4 and a 4.5. Where does this one sit on your scale?
No, this is definitely a 4.5 as well. No question. And I must say, when I did the research, just before I did the review on my channel, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I experimented with a couple of things, and I did not think that French toast will do the trick. But when I actually tried it, sometimes you just get a feeling, you pick up the corn sweetness, and then I sort of get a picture. And when I tried it, I was amazed that it worked so well.
I think it might be the cinnamon, because I mean, I don't know what recipe you followed, but I put cinnamon and nutmeg in my kind of egg mix. And both of those things are really coming alive with the spices from the actual dram itself.
That is actually a good idea. I must try that as well, because I've just dusted my cinnamon on top of everything. But if you work it into the egg mix, that is actually a very good idea.
Well, I accidentally all I did was Google it and go on BBC Good Food in the end. So that's how I got mine.
You see, Ben, I'm still learning.
Well, I say this a lot, and I think it bears repeating every single time. But one of the best things I ever heard, in response to somebody telling me that I was too young to talk about whiskey, was that whiskey is a 40-year apprenticeship. That's 40. So me, I'm sort of maybe 8 years onto my apprenticeship. You're 14. Many years to go. There's always something new to learn.
I would love to hear how long some of the other YouTube channels. I mean, I've got so much respect for some of those guys as I watch their YouTube videos. It would be interesting to know where everybody's journey started, how long everybody's been busy with whiskey.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we talk about on the lives a lot. I know. I'm grateful to have been involved in a live that Roy Akvite did, celebrating Ralphie's 100,000 subscribers. And we all talked a little bit about how we came to know Ralphie, how we came to view Ralphie, which is another interesting dynamic of YouTube, and is that when you watch someone day in, day out, week in, week out, you feel like you get to know them. It's this kind of one-sided relationship. But yeah, my whiskey career started almost the same time as my Ralphie watching, because I've always been a fan of YouTube ever since it came out in 2006. So I've always watched, and I've always, when I started drinking whiskey, it was natural instinct for me to find out if there was stuff on YouTube.
You're very fortunate to have had the privilege to watch Rolfie that long. I think he's one of the icons on YouTube. I considered doing a course in Scotland last year, on whiskey. And after I watched a few of the good guys on YouTube, I realized that you learn such a lot by watching these videos. Everybody in every video is bringing something to the table that you learn, that you haven't known before, and you realize something, even if it's just a different angle into a perspective. It's actually quite amazing.
Definitely. I've actually got a few people responding to the question about how long they're into their apprenticeships. We have Top Whiskies say they've been going about a year. Top Whiskies are a kind of, I want to say a new channel, but they're not really that new if they've been going about a year. But I'll be interesting to know how there's two guys who run that, one who's in front, one who's behind the camera. I'd be interested to know when they started being interested in whiskey, because obviously it's a decision to start talking about it. Welsh Toro, who many of you will know, he's rife in the comments sections and has been on a live. He's 30 years into his apprenticeship. Now, I'm suspicious of that because he doesn't look that old. So either he started drinking really, really early or he had what we call a easy paper round. Gary's Whiskey Reviews is another channel as well. Now, that guy, he is a new channel. In fact, I've covered a few whiskeys that he sent me recently, and you should all check him out as well. He's been going about 3 years, but his channel's relatively new. It's all the channels now. Whiskey Wednesday, who took over from Joe, his channel's been going about 5 years. He was probably the second channel that I ever saw. And he's 8 years into his apprenticeship internship. I'm just going to keep reeling him off. Sauleg, Rene, I guess that is. He's 5 years in, but he's another channel. They're a very modest channel. They don't really put themselves out there, and they should, because their content is brilliant. What else we got? We've got Tadashi Ishihara, 50 years ago with Southern Comfort. Damn. I mean, what a way to start. I mean, if I started with Southern Comfort, I don't think I'd have carried on, but
50 years, that is a long time.
Yeah, so I think we can say that he's at least a journeyman now. If it's a 40-year apprenticeship, he's got to be a journeyman or a master by now, surely. We've got there's still people are just reeling them in now. That's great. So I'm just going to keep reading these off for a few seconds if you don't mind. Duncan Harmsworth, he's 3 years. Top Whiskies have said they've been interested about 5 years now. Excellent. Let's Drink Whiskey, it's been 4 years. Aquavite's 13 years. I didn't know he was that long, actually. So that's interesting. I like that. That's good. Oh, we've got a newbie.
Is that 1-3 or 3-0? 30.
1-3, yeah, 13.
13 years. Well done.
Definitely well done. And he's only just started to do his well, he started about the same time as me, about sort of last year-ish. 6 months for Chris Beaton. and people saying that the ages of people are wrong. James Hope was 5 years proper. Excellent. Okay, well, that's I don't want to read too much into that. I've been reading for about a couple of minutes now, but we've just hit our hour, so I think we best ask a few more questions and then wrap up. What do you think?
I'm good. I see that I've got a low battery here on my camera, so I think I've got 2 or 3 minutes left.
Oh, excellent. Oh, well, definitely then. Let's make sure we wrap up pretty quickly. I'm eternally grateful for everyone watching. We've got 24 viewers right now. Hope you've enjoyed this whiskey tasting and food pairing. I've still got half of all of my portions left here, so I'm going to do all that again straight after this live because that's been absolutely incredible. Thank you to Gustav from the Whisky Couch for coming in to kind of talk me through this because I'm learning. He's teaching me these things. If you haven't checked out his channel already, make sure you do. Thank you very much for coming in, Gustav.
Thank you, Vin. I'm back at the pancakes and the cream and the whatever we put on here. I'm back at that.
the honey and orange, I think it was, wasn't it? That was for the Glenmorangie.
There we go. Thank you, Vin. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you again for everyone watching. If you are watching this live, thank you very much. If you're watching on the replay, thank you very much. And of course, thank you to Aquavite and Whisky Wednesday for doing such a great job in the comments section. Sorry, I've not had so much interaction today. It's been a really engaging conversation with Gustav, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you very much.